It's March 23rd, 1999, and another remarkable event is about to be uncovered by Ariel, Rebecca, and Ali, the Retrospectors.
Ricky Martin's hit song Livin La Vida Loca was released today in history back in 1999 at the height of my own personal sense of teenage self-possession and entitlement. I was the arbiter of what was cool and not cool in those days, and this song was decidedly not cool. But the world didn't seem to care for my assessment for some reason, and the song went on to be...
You weren't cool, Arian. You just thought you were.
Well, that's what the world thought too.
It's an absolute banger.
The song went on to be a stonking success, and despite me, it launched Ricky Martin's career into the stratosphere.
Yes, it really seems like you were very much alone in that assessment, because the album that the song came off, Ricky Martin, which weirdly was like his sixth album. His first album was also called Ricky Martin, but this was like Ricky Martin 2.0 for the sort of non-Latin crowd. It was a smash mega hit. It remains the best-selling album ever by a Latin music artist, sold at least 15 million copies worldwide. It went 7 times platinum in the US, and nothing epitomized that success more than its lead single, Livin La Vida Loca. I mean, Ricky Martin had already established a huge global spotlight on himself the previous year, because he had performed the official song of the 1998 World Cup in France, La Copa de la Vida, that had been an international hit. I mean, getting the World Cup song is cheating a little bit, but it had teed him up with this global reach, and with Livin La Vida Loca, he gave the world exactly what it wanted.
Which I'd completely forgotten. Had you? Like, in my mind, I know that Ricky Martin's not a one-hit wonder in the English-speaking world, because there's Shebangs.
He does bang.
And there's da-da-da-da-da-da, Maria, right? So there's 2 that I can name along with La Vida Loca. So I knew that he wasn't a one-hit wonder. But to all intents and purposes, you say Ricky Martin to most people my age and they'd be like, oh yeah, Livin La Vida Loca, banger. Arian was wrong. But I therefore sort of assumed that he exploded onto the scene with that. And I do vaguely remember him doing the World Cup song, but I therefore assumed that must have come after Livin La Vida Loca. But you're right, the chronology is not only was the World Cup song before, but the reason he had the World Cup song was he'd been in show business since the age of 12. So he was in the sort of Latino world a wildly successful star already. He'd released 4 solo albums that had sold 13 million copies. And he'd been before that in Menudo, this wildly successful Spanish language boy band, really, which is like kind of New Edition or New Kids on the Block. There's footage of him on YouTube in 1984 performing with this Puerto Rican band, looking scarily young, like sort of, Michael Jackson, young to be doing that. So he actually had this really rigorous showbiz background. He'd been in Les Mis on Broadway. He'd spent 4 years starring in General Hospital, the American soap opera. Seems like a grizzled veteran of showbiz when he had this supposedly big debut.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was kind of big in the Spanish-speaking world, but he hadn't yet made the breakthrough until when he was touring his album Vuelve in 1997, that hit song Maria caught the attention of FIFA, and they then contacted Martin and asked him to create a song for the 1998 FIFA World Cup. He wrote about that request in Me, his official autobiography. I love that he just called it Me. He said, I have to admit that the challenge made me a bit nervous, but the massive growth potential for my career was such that I decided to accept. And so following that acceptance, he then brought on musicians Casey Porter, Robbie Rosa, and Desmond Child, who was a big producer at the time, and they started working on The Cup of Life. Martin wrote about the recording in Me Again. From that moment on, we began to look at the album as part of a global strategy to promote Latin music worldwide. I'm sure he was also thinking of himself a little bit. So we chose and arranged the songs with the sole mission of getting the entire globe to sing and dance in Spanish. It was a unique opportunity to introduce the charms of Latin music to the rest of the world. And also, footnote, me.
And just to be clear, that's the second quote from the book Me. He didn't release a sequel called Me Again.
Yeah.
So
that should be his follow-up.
I mean, Menudo was enormous. It was the biggest band in Latin music history. They sold 20 million albums. Martin was the breakout crossover star. What it reminded me of was a modern K-pop band. You know, it was this life of grueling schedules, travel all the time, very, very strict routines, both in terms of the dance routines and the lifestyle that they were living. So when he left and went solo, that really was his first taste of freedom. You know, he'd grown up in the band. So he was sort of trying out different things and actually being quite good at all of them. You know, he was in a musical that got really good reviews. He was in a Mexican telenovela and was like everybody's favorite character. And then he went to the US and was in General Hospital and everybody loved him there too.
The reason that we're talking about this still is that this was a genuinely significant moment, I think, in American pop music from the point of view of that Spanish Latino influence. People talked about this again, didn't they, in our era with Despacito and perhaps in the 1950s with Richie Valens. But, you know, if you sort of stagger out the Latino stars, yes, there were those guys. And, you know, yes, there was Gloria Estefan before there was Ricky Martin. But actually hot on the heels of Ricky Martin in this era, 1999-2000, there was J-Lo, there was Shakira, there was Christina Aguilera, there was the return of Santana, there was Enrique Iglesias. And suddenly music executives were waking up to the idea that it wasn't only Spanish-speaking Americans who might buy this music if you packaged it in the right way. And Livin La Vida Loca is just an absolute textbook example of how to reach both audiences at once, isn't it? That producer you mentioned, Desmond Child, had worked previously on Living on a Prayer and Dude Looks Like a Lady and big rock anthems like that, and said that he'd taken what he'd learned in those stadium-filling pop songs and applied it to Latino sounds.
Yeah, and it was a huge departure from Martin's original sound as well. His first album was released in 1991 in mostly a kind of ballady, classic romantic vein. It wasn't until the success of Maria, it's upbeat, it's tropical tinged, it sort of draws on Afrobeat sounds as well. And it was a big contrast at the time from what he had done up to then. You know, he'd been a real classic romantic singer, but that was a huge hit. It was #1 in Australia, France, Belgium, Hungary, and it made the top 10 all across Europe, including in the UK. So what was remarkable about the success of Maria was that these songs were all still huge hits in his original core fan base in Latin America. It wasn't like he was trying to leave that sound behind. He was trying to bring that to the English-speaking market. And I think Livin La Vida Loca is really where he sort of perfected that particular formula.
Yeah, and to the extent that when he first heard it, he knew. So he didn't write this song. It was written by Draco Rosso, who you mentioned, who'd actually also been in Menudo, the boy band.
Everyone was.
And Desmond Child.
the neighbours of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And they'd sent him the demo and he listened to it in a car and was like, this song's amazing. Can we re-record the album to include this? The album was already done. And the instant success of this song as an earworm when it got in people's heads, the head of MTV at the time told The Times of London, quote, "We played his video and the next day it was among the most requested. For a brand new artist to catapult to the top like that, we just don't see that."
Yeah, the music video appealed to MTV and VH1 and became this huge hit, I think because it had that swagger and sex appeal.
And glosses over the detail that the lyrics are very specific, that when he wakes up in the hotel room in New York City, he has been drugged by this woman that he's singing an ode to.
Yes,
and she's stolen his stuff. Like, I was listening to that thinking, what's just happened? She takes him back, they have sex, and then she drugs him so she can nick his things. Is that okay?
Well, but I think the critical detail that makes it sexy is the sex part of the song.
Yeah.
And that's what Ricky Martin was trading on. He was
that
a hip-swinging kind of guy.
Then she stole his things. Yeah.
And also, he instantly became a gay icon, even though at the time he was dating women. But there were big questions about his sexuality that he really didn't feel comfortable talking about until 2010. But I think the idea that he had mass appeal, you know, Spanish-speaking world, international, men, women, everyone, that was kind of the thing that he was selling. Sex to anyone at all.
Red Hot Latina is obviously what they're going for in the music video, isn't it? I was watching it earlier today and there's that bit where he's like, she makes you take your clothes off and go dancing in the rain. Yeah, and they're not dancing in the rain. They're dancing in dirty fire hydrant water.
Yeah.
The car's just crashed into a hydrant by the side of the street. And then it's just like ejaculated into the air and that's what they're dancing in.
She makes you go dancing in fire hydrant ejaculate, just does not scan the same way.
Now,
this episode first aired last year exclusively to members of Club Retrospectors.
Join today and unlock a new episode this Sunday.
Patreon.com/Retrospectors.